Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, make it so. Make it so. Make it so. Man, it doesn't show signs of stopping. And I brought me some tea Earl Grey hot. The lights turned way down low. Make it so. Make it so. Make it so. When we finally kiss goodnight. How I hate going out in the storm. But if you...
Really?
Shut up, Wesley. All the way home, I'll be...
warm. Oh, the fire is slowly dying. And my dear...
We're still goodbye, then. But
As long as you love me,
so...
make it so.
Make it so. Make it so.
Where are we?
Right now you're in a kind of limbo. You're neither here nor there.
Where are we?
Between light and shadow.
Hey guys, it's Craig, and this is Between Light and Shadow, a Twilight Zone podcast. Last week was our second annual holiday special, and one of our special guests was none other than Fred from the Twilight Pone podcast. Our chat was actually an edited version of a much longer chat that took place on December 17th, and I thought I'd be extra generous and make the entire convo available for your enjoyment or something. This also allows us to get one more episode out the door before the ball drops and 2017 fades into alcohol-blurred memory. You know, for tax purposes or whatever. Couple of quick notes. Now, this is totally unedited, which means you're going to hear a lot more from me than you can possibly imagine. You know, it's always a bit sobering for me to hear recordings of myself in conversation, not reading from prepared notes. Evidently, I grope for words almost constantly, and I fill the gaps in with like they're going out of style. So, yeah, sorry for that. God, it must be a nightmare talking to me. Also, the first thing you're going to hear is Fred greeting me as Crab Zone. You know, I'm half tempted to not explain that one at all, just for the hell of it. But, nah, it's my Skype handle. Now that that's out there, I don't want my Lunatic Fringe fans to start calling me on Skype at all hours of the day and night. You know who you are. I'm trusting that you can possess that information and choose not to use and abuse it. And since this is a raw, unedited recording, you're not going to hear the after-the-fact production touches you heard in the polished, edited version last week. No jingles, no music, no clips, and I'm giving you the complete chat, including the pre- and post-show chatter. A little behind-the-scenes glimpse, if you're into that sort of thing. And like I said last week, when you get someone like Fred on your podcast, well, you want to wring every last drop out of it. So, without further ado, roll the tape.
Crab Zone.
Haha. Hey, Fred.
I was like, I hope that's Craig, because if it's not, it's something deeply weird.
Well, it can be both things.
Yeah, understood. Hey, let's do the business and then find out what Crab Zone's all about.
Right on, yeah. So, hey, man, what's going on?
Not much. How are you?
I'm well. Just doing the usual navigating of the holidays.
What's your general holiday setup? Do you is your wife's family from the area as well, or?
Well, yeah, Southern Oregon, but
Okay.
they're pretty much scattered now, so they're not around. So, really, we just kind of hang out here, and then we go to my parents' house.
That sounds traditional and good. That sounds viable.
And what about you? What's
my wife and I are going to hang out with our family. They live in like pretty rural New Jersey, which is kind of fun. It's like kind of like a fun kind of country Christmas, I guess you call it. And then we're going to California for 4 or 5 days. That's where I'm originally from.
Oh, right.
So it should be fun, but it's like, I don't know. It's a little like, it's like hard to split it up among two families. And, I suspect, if we ever have a kid, that will disappear, and we're going to have like a battle royale to determine who gets Christmas. But right now we're trying to split the atom and make it a nice time. Nice. So it should be fun.
Yeah. So I saw on Facebook that you got a tree.
We did. Is that bad or
no? I'm curious. How much do Christmas trees go for in New York?
That's a great question. That one probably cost, I think it was $40. Is that a lot or not much?
All right. So, so I'm in Oregon, and
right.
You would think that they'd be a dime a dozen here, right? Because we have like all the trees. Yeah. My tree was freaking like $58.
Huh.
And it wasn't like some like rare strain of tree. It was just a regular Douglas fir, whatever.
I bet yours is probably bigger, like feet wise. How big is your tree?
It's taller than I am.
Okay, yeah. So mine is like
8 feet.
3. Yeah. Mine is like 3 feet tall. so if we do the math and double the size of mine would be 80. So maybe that puts.
I feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah. Cool.
So
what do you want to talk about? Like, I have my 3 haikus, but do you want to just kind of have like a loose conversation and edit down, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that'd be cool. Couple things I kind of want to touch on as we go, and we'll do the haiku thing kind of last.
Okay,
if that works.
Totally cool with me.
Yeah.
Save the embarrassment for last.
Wait, for which one of us?
Well, we'll find out.
I guess we will.
So I'm recording I just started recording my end. Do you want to kind of like clap really loud, and I'll hold my headphones up so you have like a little sync point, or how do you want to do this?
Sure, we can do that.
That's what me and John do.
Okay, all right then.
It works. All right, go ahead and.
Okay,
here's the sync point coming.
Here it comes.
Cool, beautiful.
All right, we're synchronized.
Synchronized.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So the big deal around the world as we're recording this. Oh, hang on, back up. Yeah, I'm gonna be editing this shit out of this thing already. I can tell. Okay, so I guess I should do an intro. I might actually include some of the stuff we already did.
That's fine. Don't worry. I only started recording after the Christmas tree, so as long as you don't mind the Skype thing kind of being you figure it out. But I'm recording now. Let's ride.
I'll go guerrilla on this, man. It'll be
okay. I have no problem with the price of my Christmas tree being publicly revealed.
Good. I should have probably checked with you first.
It's fine.
All right. So I'll do a little intro thing. So
cool.
Fred, welcome back to Between Light and Shadow.
Hello.
You were last on the show, I think it was like November of last year.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Approximately.
It's a year anniversary of my first appearance.
Yeah, it's a holiday here. So you were in town with your band, and we actually were able to meet up in person and have a chat, and that was really fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Other than the thoroughly embarrassing, unprofessional absence of monitoring headphones, which I'm still horrified about. But
it's fine. It came out well.
Yeah. All right. So the big deal around the world as we're recording this is the release of the latest Star Wars film, The Last Jedi. Now, my understanding is that you haven't seen it, so we're not going to talk about it.
Cool.
I'm gonna say one thing though, and I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler. The underlying sexual tension between Chewbacca and Admiral Akbar still as strong as ever.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it was hinted at very strongly in Force Awakens, so I'm not deeply surprised by that. But it's good to know that it really comes to full flower, And I think in the third one, it'll really, be depicted on screen graphically. So that's looking forward to that.
Yeah, same. So, the Twilight Zone is still kicking. It's
kicking is a funny word. I would say kind of flailing would be more my description for
crawling out of the wreckage. You're about like once a month, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a little generous, but yeah, we're in that realm. It's been fun to kind of keep it doing. I think at this point, John and I kind of mainly do it just to stay in touch. But it's really fun. And if listeners aren't familiar, I'm from another Twilight Zone podcast from the distant past, and we finished the series, and now my co-host and I just kind of do random things, sometimes Night Gallery, sometimes the 80s Twilight Zone series. We did Planet of the Apes and got a lot of flack for it because we made fun of it. But I don't know. We're definitely kind of half-assing it as we go, but we're going to keep doing it because it's fun. So yeah.
Well, first of all, everybody listening to this knows your podcast. I don't believe there is a single person listening to this that doesn't also listen to yours.
It's a small world, Twilight Zone podcasting.
My God. I was just talking last week on my podcast about how many there are now. There are like 3 new ones.
Oh, wow, really?
There's like, I think 11 or 12 like active Twilight Zone podcasts right now. It's insane.
Are most of them kind of like the general model of like 2 dudes kind of riff around a thing? I mean, I'm not saying that like that's good or bad. It's just like that's the default thing for a podcast, and certainly me and John are guilty of that.
Let me think. There's one where it's a couple of guys, and it's actually a little broader. I think they do anything Rod Serling. And then there's another one where it's like 3 brothers.
Whoa.
So that's
interesting.
That may be the first one with 3.
All right.
But it's kind of amazing / frightening that there are that many of these.
I know, it's weird.
I don't know. I mean, I hesitated even doing mine because there were so many then.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cool thing about yours is not to get in a mutual trying to think of a
we are scratching
PG-13,
each other's backs big time.
Yeah, there we go. Back scratching. I was going to go a different place, but yeah, not to get into a back scratching exercise, but I think what I liked about yours is that it's like it's just you, but you bring a lot of different guests, and there's kind of like a lot of old time radio type of sound effects and it's a little bit less like, hey, let's hang out and talk about the Twilight Zone, which is fine, but I think it's a little bit like, I don't know, diminishing returns, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't want to sit here and go on about my own thing, but I mean, I just wanted it to be something different. Which I guess it kind of is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have time to listen.
Me and John were definitely kind of like, well, we're not British, so we're different than different than Tom's.
Oh, I love Tom's podcast, though.
It's so good. Yeah, I it's funny because I didn't think I would keep listening to it after we finished, just because I was like, I don't want to hear about the Twilight Zone, but I definitely do.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I mean that's cool. So I remember vaguely and hazily when we talked before, because at that point I think it was more recent that you guys had finished the Twilight Zone. So it had already, I think, I don't know, my timing might be wrong here, but you guys had already kind of gone to this like less frequent, like monthly kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. Yeah.
And I think I asked you, well, you'd think I would have gone back and listened to this before we talked today, but
it's all right.
But again, this is my lack of professionalism shining through. That if you had thought that you would ever like do another podcast, or like if you missed like the weekly grind,
right? Yeah,
and it seemed like you kind of did. I feel like the tenor was more like John was really glad to be done, but like you could have kept it going, like you were.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate. I mean, I think it's 2 things. I think one, John's personality is just like a little naturally more like kind of dry and just a little bit like, all right, I've checked that off my list. Now I'm done. So there's that. But I mean, he has 2 kids. He wasn't working while we were doing most of it. Like he was, I guess he was working part-time, but he didn't have like a full 40-hour week schedule when we were doing most of it. So I just feel like his life is just super busy, and I think it's cool to like knock it out every now and then, but like a weekly schedule was getting a bit out of hand. Yeah. I do miss it, but I kind of feel like if I would feel a little bit better if we stuck to like solidly once a month, because that would feel like kind of regular. Right now it's a little bit like, all right, let's find like the 2 hours a month we can both do it, and it doesn't always happen, but yeah.
That tenuous link. It's kind of like Facebook. Like I have friends that's the only reason I'm in contact with them, and if it weren't for Facebook, I would have just lost touch with so many people.
Yeah. No, it's a weird kind of relation. It's a weird relationship that John and I have, because it's like I feel like intimately familiar with his opinion on 70s Rod Serling productions, and kind of vaguely like, his kids are continuing to grow older. Cool. But they're very cute.
Oh, well, that's all you need. That's the goal.
Hey, there you go. Nice tie-in. That is what you need.
My kids are cool. Oh, nice. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So have you considered doing a different podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'd like to keep doing the thing with John, just because I feel like we have like a thing that we do, so it's I have to build it from scratch. My brother and I have been talking about starting a soccer podcast, but there's an element of like, there's 11 Twilight Zone podcasts or whatever. There's like 11,000 soccer podcasts. So I think we would mostly be doing it, for our own. We're both really into the German national soccer team. This is getting really boring to anyone who tuned in wanting to hear about what you need. But anyway, we like the German national soccer team, and we might do a soccer podcast about them. But yeah.
Cool. Really cool.
Although, I mean, if the new Twilight Zone series is exciting and good, maybe John and I will kind of get more regular. How do you feel about it right now?
I'm reserving judgment. I mean, my initial reaction was, "Oh my God, no!" And then I actually hadn't seen Get Out at that point.
Oh yeah.
It was kind of like on the back of my head. It's like, I got to watch that movie at some point. My daughter had seen it. She said it was really good. So as soon as that news broke, I went and watched that. And I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good. And I think it's very, I mean, there's a Twilight Zone-y element to it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, this happens every so many years. They decide to reboot this. And, I mean, if it's going to be like Star Trek, where they just keep going back again, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not, all right. I mean, my thing is, it doesn't diminish the original. And if anything, it draws attention to it. Not that the Twilight Zone needs attention, because, again, there are a dozen current podcasts on a 60-year-old show. So it's doing all right without the reboots. But I'm cautiously interested. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's weird because, like, with Star Trek, at least there's a universe that's preserved from series to series, and the rules change a little bit, but like basically, the fundamental world that the series takes place in kind of stays the same. But with the Twilight Zone, it's weird because what exactly you mean when you say the Twilight Zone is like a lot more amorphous and kind of odd. Like it's not a set of characters. The only consistent character was Rod Serling, and unfortunately he can't appear on the...
He's not available.
He's not currently... His agent is playing hardball on this one. And so I kind of feel like the things that attract me to it are like a complete package. There is like the sensibility of the original show, which they can sort of maybe try and recapture, but it's also the black and white, the fact that it's taking place in the 50s and 60s, and like there's so much more to it. And I think that, like, absent all of those factors, all you really have is like a series about crazy stuff that happens, and maybe there's a twist, and it's like, all right, like that could be cool, it could be bad, but it's not why I love the Twilight Zone.
I mean, ideally it would serve as a kind of reflection of the current time, like.
But don't you feel like Black Mirror kind of already does that?
Well, and I mean, I was going to ask you if you're a fan of Black Mirror.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I'm not. I find, to be honest, some of it a little bit like all right, social media is bad. I knew that. Like, cool. Like, I see where this is going. But, like, it's just undeniably, well, not undeniably, but it's a pretty damn fun show. And I like it a lot. And, you know, I think it's, like, already kind of got the thing of, like, being a Twilight Zone type show grounded in technology. And that's maybe the most ripe ground for, like, a contemporary, like, shocker twister, whoa type show.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I think your take is perfect, cautiously optimistic, but I'm definitely not like frothing at the mouth, waiting for the eps to drop.
Fred, I said cautiously interested. I did not say optimistic.
Okay, sorry. Apologize. What you said, yeah.
Did you watch the Forrest Whitaker show, the 2000s?
The 2000s one?
Yeah.
I've seen episodes of it. I mean, it's bad usually.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a particularly good episode. The one I watched most recently was the one with Billy Mooney in it, and it pains me to say it, but it's not very good.
I think,
I don't know. It's just kind of like, why'd they do that? I don't know.
I mean, I think it's an interesting idea, and I think
I do, but don't you think it's just like kind of clumsily made or something?
Oh, very much so. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was, and I don't know like where in their run that fell. I don't know if they were like panicking. Yeah. It's like, oh, we got to do something because our ratings are terrible. I know that they also remade Eye of the Beholder, which is
I haven't seen that one.
Oh god, it's terrible.
Yeah,
everything good about the original not there. So there you go.
That sounds great.
It's so yeah. YouTube that shit because it's yeah. If you need to kill some time.
Are there any like particularly good episodes? I don't think I've ever seen one that's good.
Honestly,
or like strikingly good.
I don't know that I've seen that many of them. I remember again being cautiously interested when it came on, and it was like I watched it for a few weeks and it was like, and then I kind of don't remember anything after that, so I must not have continued watching it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know. I have the DVDs, but I don't watch them.
I think it's in this weird little window where like the 80s Twilight Zone, it can sort of be good or it can be sort of enjoyably cheesy because it's so rooted in this sort of schlocky 80s-ness.
Yeah.
And I feel like the early 2000s one, it's like too recent to be kind of like cheesily funny for the time period in which it was made. Like I'm still kind of like, oh yeah, no, I remember what that was like, you know. Like I'm definitely like still watching episodes of Deep Space Nine pretty regularly, so I'm not gonna laugh just because of the video quality.
Right.
So I don't know. It's. I mean, this one I'm sure will probably be better made based on the people who are working on it, but I just I don't know, you know.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely check it out. I mean, I'm trying to decide if I want to subscribe to CBS All Access because right now I don't. I saw that first episode of Star Trek Discovery. I haven't seen anything else. I don't know if it's any good.
It's not bad. I mean, it's just very different. I mean, it doesn't feel that strongly like Star Trek to me. You know, like it doesn't give me that Star Trek feeling. Just the same way that I think the 2000s Twilight Zone doesn't give me or indeed many people the Twilight Zone feeling. So I think it's good. It's not great. I don't know. I think my biggest knock on it is just that it doesn't feel like Star Trek to me, but that's fine.
I mean, I felt like in a way, I mean, I guess if anything, it evokes the more recent reboot movies.
Yeah. Oh, it's clearly made in that spirit, and so it's
which I don't hate those. I don't love them either, but I don't hate them.
The first one in particular is just really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a question I always wonder: do you think they'll ever remake like Star Trek: The Next Generation and cast like a younger bald guy as Picard, or is that just never going to happen?
Like straight up. Wow.
Well, I mean, it may be too soon, if indeed they'll ever do it. But it's a popular, you know, show. I think it still does well on streaming and stuff. So,
I still think it's the best of the modern Star Trek series.
Well, I might say Deep Space Nine, but that's a side point. Yeah. But do you think like they'd ever like reboot reboot it because you know what I mean.
I think that'd be kind of ballsy. I don't know. That's I'm trying to. I mean, do you mean would it be like a prequel, like when Picard is young, or?
I mean, I haven't thought it through more than like wondering if they would do that, because I'm sure at some point in 1976 or something, probably people were saying like, or I don't later than that, like they're never going to make Star Trek movies set in the original series world because that just doesn't make sense. But like then they did it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, maybe 20 years from now, they'll, you know, I don't know, make a new one, and the kid from Stranger Things will be Riker or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, my God. Wait, which kid?
Finn Wolfhard. I don't know.
Yeah. We actually just finished watching season 2 of Stranger Things recently. We actually got our daughter to watch it with us, which is a Herculean feat of just getting her to watch something that we want to watch.
What's her perspective on it? I'm curious because she's obviously, or not obviously, but probably is not as intimately familiar with like the source material or, you know, the material that it references.
She enjoyed it, but I don't think she cared. And no, and everything like that went straight over her head. I mean, you know, we're sitting here like, you know, pointing at the TV going, yeah, every time we like, you know, recognized a reference or an Easter egg or something. She didn't get any of that, but I think she still enjoyed it. And I think that's the mark that it's more than just a nostalgia trip. I mean, there's actually something more to it.
I find that stuff so interesting. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I thought the movie The Christmas Story was like actually made in the 40s or something like that. Like, just stuff like that where you don't, when you're a kid, like you know, like just the layers of referencing and don't really mean anything to you whatsoever. And you just kind of interpret it sort of naively or sincerely, however you want to put it. I don't know, that kind of thing is, it's weird how your mind works that way. Like I still have to remind myself that like Grease is not made in the 50s. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, wait, was it? Oh wait, no, definitely not.
Right. So I had this idea. This was back when I was doing my Twilight Zone blog, and it was, the show was turning 50. I had this idea that there would be a new Twilight Zone series, but it would be, the whole conceit of it would be that, so when the show was canceled, they had actually started work on the 6th season, and there were all these like, you know, like lost episodes that had never surfaced. And it would be black and white. It would be, I mean, everything about it would like mimic the original show, and it would like really be authentic in that respect. And
you mean like you'd make it now, but just under that premise or something? Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I thought, oh my God, this has to happen. Obviously, that's never going to happen. But when they announced the new Jordan Peele thing, I was like, I got to get in a room with Jordan Peele. Someone's got to get to him immediately to tell him, like, someone's got to tell him like what it needs to be, you know, because there have been two reboots and they weren't like landmark, you know, they weren't like life changing.
Yeah,
this could be something great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It could be that. I mean, I don't think CBS has put any information out other than Jordan Peele is the one doing it. I mean, I don't know. It's tough because, like, you know, I think that's a cool idea, but it's also tough because it might just kind of come across like a sort of self-conscious nostalgia thing.
Oh, sure, totally.
But it also could be really cool. I mean, that's the thing. It's like hard to know. You know, I think in particular, it's like something like Star Trek. It's like, okay, well, you know, probably there's going to be a starship, and you're going to take place in this world, and here are the aliens, and here's the general idea of the technology, but. It's like, well, what is the Twilight Zone? Is it the fact that it's the black and white and it's the time period, or is it and also even within the show, there's so much inconsistency. I mean, like, how do you reconcile, like, you know, Mr. Dingle the Strong with Eye of the Beholder? I mean, like, aside from Rod Serling and it's black and white and it's made at a certain time, those are just could not be more different. You know what I mean?
Right.
In tone, I mean, everything's different. So it's hard to, like, recreate something like that.
I think it's like a lightning in the bottle kind of thing. You know, it's you can't go back to that. I mean, you can try, and you may succeed. Sometimes you may, you know, like with the 80s Twilight Zone, there were some good episodes of that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I don't know that I would think of them as Twilight Zone-y. I just think there were some really good stories that they told. And yeah, I mean, it was the 80s. The special effects are ridiculously stupid. But there were some great stories.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can... I mean, I get why they do it, because it's the name recognition. You're not going to make a show called Weird Stories, and people are going to care. It's the Twilight Zone. But anyways, so this is our second annual holiday episode, and we kind of blew our wad last year with Night of the Meek. So we're covering What You Need this year, which, as I mentioned earlier on the podcast, is kind of Christmassy. So, knowing that you and I were going to talk, I broke one of my cardinal rules and listened to your episode on What You Need just like an hour or two ago. I just listened to it. Oh, cool. And I usually, as a rule, avoid other Twilight Zone podcasts when I'm working on mine, because I don't, you know what I mean? I don't... I listened to it before, but I mean, it's been over 3 years since you guys covered that. So I don't remember it, but I usually wouldn't want to listen to it right before I'm working on mine. So yeah, it's over 3 years ago. Do you even remember recording that one?
Well, I don't remember recording it. I don't remember what the weather was like the day of, but I remember talking about it. I mean, I remember, obviously I know that you'd want to talk about it tonight, so that kind of sent me down memory lane. I remember one of the most interesting things about do you want to talk about the episode?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting how the episode starts and you're not really paying attention initially to Pedot and Renard. Is that correct? Oh, no, you're not paying attention to Renard initially, right? Right. Renard is just sitting there watching an interaction with Pedot and the other characters happen, which is kind of like an interesting storytelling thing where it's the main character is watching some secondary characters play out a little sub-story before his story gets going, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, I almost feel like, in a way, it feels like a play. Because if you had
one set,
and if you had a play like that where you had multiple characters kind of in a communal environment, like a bar, you would have, that character would be sitting there and they might be, listening to the conversation. And I'm always... Whenever I watch a Twilight Zone or rewatch a Twilight Zone, one of the things I always think of is, how would this translate to the stage? Because that's been kind of a thing. And it's actually a thing right now. There's a thing, I think it's in London, right now.
Right, yeah. Tom was talking about it on his podcast, yeah.
Where
this would be a good play one, I think, for sure.
At least the first half.
Well, yeah, when you get to the car accident, maybe not so much, but yeah.
Well, one of the things that I mentioned earlier in this episode is that it's really two different stories. You've got this whole thing first where it's kind of this magical fairy tale, and Pedot's kind of going around from person to person and solving their problems. And then you come back from commercial and it totally goes this really dark place. So I don't know how that would translate to the stage, but no, definitely the first half. So in well, wait, I'll back up. So did you have? We'll keep talking about the episode. I'm going to edit that little bit out.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I think when I think back on that episode now, having watched the show very intensely for a couple years, I sort of feel like I took a break from it after we finished the podcast, but I still, come back and watch it pretty regularly. And I feel like this episode for me falls into this really specific category of episode where it's there's a handful of episodes that are really good, but I almost don't want to watch them that regularly because they're intense, like Eye of the Beholder, or I just don't want to ruin them. Shadow Play, I think, is amazing, but I don't want to watch it every day.
Sure.
And then you have these episodes that I like, The Bard, which I'm just I never want to watch again, and I would just get up and walk away. But then you have a bunch of episodes that are kind of in the middle. They're very watchable. They're not so great, but they're just really. They're just fun to have on, and I think What You Need to me is exactly in the sweet spot of that kind of episode. It doesn't ask a huge amount of you, but it just is kind of a fun, cute little story.
Sure.
when I say cute, the character does die. Yes, to be fair.
True. But he's not a nice guy, so it's okay.
There you go. And his name's Fred, so he probably had it coming.
Nice. There are no Craigs in the Twilight Zone. It pisses
Really?
me off. I mean, I don't think. I feel like
there is a Craig. There is a Craig.
The little people.
It's the astronaut and the little people.
Yeah. All right. I don't think that's his first name though. Right.
But
he dies. Yeah. He dies too.
True.
What the hell?
Maybe Sterling is trying to tell us something through the ages.
Perhaps. But in listening to your episode on What You Need, something that really blew me away, like in that, like everything in the universe is connected and nothing is accidental sort of way. Mm-hmm. You made an offhand comment about Fred Renard being a slam poet. Now,
did I?
You did because he has this weird little bit where he says this whole thing, and it sounds
like nice clothes, mama, sweet, like I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like high living or whatever.
Something, yeah. And so you basically said something. Is he a slam poet?
Yeah.
Now. The listeners
what
don't.
A wish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nice segue. The listeners don't know this yet, but you have graciously agreed to help me launch a brand new segment on the podcast. And this is exactly. Oh, by the way, right there, I'll play the jingle because there's a jingle.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, there's a poetry slam jingle.
Gotta get our jingles going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's one of the ways. Probably that. If people are like examining the different podcasts, I hope they're not going like, oh yeah, Craig totally ripped off the jingle thing from the Pwn. Like,
yes, we came up with the concept of having jingles.
That was what I ultimately.
It's totally singular.
Like,
I wouldn't stress about it.
Yeah. Okay.
But I will say, and maybe this is something that we discussed when we did the interview a long time ago, but I said he was sort of like a slam poet, and I actually did do slam poetry when I was in high school. Now I have not written slam poems. That's not what you wanted, right?
No, I think we're going to specifically. Well, hang on. So this is exactly what it sounds like. It's Twilight Zone poetry, or specifically, it's poems inspired by Twilight Zone episodes. We're going to do haikus here. Fred, I don't know how much TV you watch, but there's this relatively new show that my wife is obsessed with called Drop the Mic.
I never heard of it.
So it's basically where celebrities, like actors, singers, star fuckers, whatever, face off in like an epic 3-round rap battle.
Okay.
Interesting. It's actually kind of fun. We just watched one last night where Kenny G faced off against Richard Marx.
Interesting.
Spoiler alert, Kenny G won.
I have no doubt about that.
Of course,
I think any musician is going to like have some leg up in that regard, I feel like.
So my thinking was it might be fun just to throw down with a few like what you need specific haikus, and if it works, I might just make it like a permanent segment. I mean, I don't know if it would always be like a battle because it'll probably be me by myself usually throwing out solo haikus most of the time. I mean, unless a certain fellow Twilight Zone podcaster wants to have a recurring role as the haiku guy, which I'd totally be down with.
I'm maybe not like a weekly haiku, but I could be like a seasonal haiku man.
Seasonal haiku man.
Every time the seasons change, I think I can be inspired to come up with a TZ haiku, and I have 3 tonight, so that's a good rate of return already.
Sounds like an SNL character. Seasonal haiku man.
Seasonal haiku man. Cutting room floor SNL character.
And I mean, really, your fans, I'm sure, are dying for more Fred, right? I mean, because this monthly thing is just cruel. I mean,
exactly, and really, what everybody wants from the Twilight Zone is more haikus.
That's right. There's a real lack of poetry.
So how do you want to? Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, so in my typical half-ass fashion, I didn't really think this through. I don't know how we'll determine who won. I don't know. I guess in my head it was just like, one of us would go, we'd do 3. That was kind of where it ended. I don't know.
All right. Well, let's just throw them out there.
Let's roll. Yeah.
Kind of see what happens.
I mean, and I'm more than happy to concede defeat if I come up short. So.
Okay. I think we'll be a gentleman's agreement to be very conscientious in our grading of this haiku battle.
So I've got.
So should I go first, or you want to go first?
5. So I have to just pick 3 here.
Pick your 3 best.
All right. Okay. You're the guest. I insist that you go first.
Okay. Here we go. Here's my number 1. Pedot, what you need is not slip shoes for Renard. You need a new name. Is that all right?
Is that a haiku?
It is, yes. It's 575, right?
That 575, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Boom. Boom. Slam jam.
Okay. All right. Pedot is a gleep. Peddling is a young man's game. Lou Bookman's cousin?
That's good. I like that one. The Gleep mention.
Yeah, I had to drop a Gleep in.
Solid. Yeah, and also another callback to another episode. So bonus points for that. All right, here's my number 2. Can a bus ticket to Scranton, Pennsylvania really be good luck? I mean, you have to see the episode to understand that one. So I recommend you, listeners, check out the episode before they listen to this.
Have you ever been to Scranton? Because I have not. God,
I want to say that I have, but I don't think I've ever spent time there.
I mean, I know nothing.
I feel like I have because I've watched The Office a lot, but other than that, not really. It just seems like a bad place.
Yes.
Or not a bad place, but maybe a place that you don't want to get a bus ticket to.
But they apparently have a baseball team. So
apparently. This is right.
All right. Rain-covered sidewalk. Boulevard of broken dreams. Damn these slippery shoes.
That's good. It's very literal, just recounting what happened.
I violated the rhyme scheme a little bit because my third line has 6, but I actually did the slippery, with the apostrophe.
Oh, slippery, right? Yeah. No, you didn't. And it's funny. You should mention that because I was wondering. Okay, so in my last one, it's the second line is to Scranton, Pennsylvania. But is it Vania or is Pennsylvania? It could be 4 or it could be 3. Pennsylvania. What do you think?
I think you can do Vania. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
It's a local dialect.
There you go.
All right. Here's my number 3. Pedot, do you have booze in there? Because if you don't, false advertising.
Okay, and it's funny because normally when I'm recording, I have a big bottle of water. But
okay.
But it's Sunday, so I've been drinking all day. So I've got a couple bottles of beer sitting here. So well, that's what I need.
There you go. Sounds like you've got what you need.
That's what I need. Okay. Here's my number 3. Mr. Fred Renard, a parasitic douchebag. Serling's not a fan.
There you go. What's Serling's intro in the beginning of this one?
Oh my god! It is.
Is it the
It is the.
Is it the cheap man or that's $4 room?
Let's see. He's a cheap man. He's a sour man. He's got a chip on his shoulder the size of the national debt.
Oh yeah.
I think it's his worst. His worst most vicious rundown of any of his characters.
Yeah, yeah. He comes in real hard on that, and then also the nervous man in a $4 room. But I think Fred Renard gets it good.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jackie's not a bad guy. I think
that's true.
That's
true. That's true. But I always remember John was particularly good. This is just going down memory lane here, but John was particularly good at kind of playing on that. I remember his parody of one of those was it's 4 STD encrusted quarters pay for his room, or cheap little hair or something. John was just good at mocking that quality of Serling.
Cheap little hair.
Cheap little fingers and cheap little hair.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think we're both kind of the winners there.
So we're going to call that a draw. We're going to call it a tie.
I think it's a draw. And I think next season I'll be back and we'll do it.
I was going to say, you know what that means, right? If we're going to call it a tie,
exactly.
that means we need a tiebreaker. So we're going to have to come back. And maybe next time we'll have somebody on hand to moderate and judge.
Yeah, I think we can get a family member, a kid, a grandkid, a dog. We can get a judge in here. I think.
Who I'm thinking of is Reba Wisner.
Oh yeah,
she was
that's
actually
a good call.
already on earlier on this episode talking about the music from What You Need.
Oh, that's cool. What is the music? What's is it stock cues or is it an original score?
It's an original score by Van Cleve.
Oh yeah,
I think it's his first. I'd have to check this. I think it's the first one he did for the show. And he actually he did more original scores than anybody else.
Really?
I mean, I think that if you factor in all the library stuff, I think probably Bernard Herrmann has the most.
Yeah.
But as far as original scores written for the show, Van Cleve's got the most. I think he has 12.
Oh, interesting.
In fact,
did he? What?
When I talked with Steve Rubin recently.
Oh yeah.
So did you?
Yes. Well, it took me I may have conducted the interview before you, but certainly didn't edit it before you got yours out.
That's how I felt about when Tom's like, oh god damn it.
Well, Tom's gonna scoop everybody.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Because when I got the Twilight Zone encyclopedia, which by the way, kids, is a great Christmas gift.
Pick it up.
Yeah.
With a lot of photography by none other than Craig D.
I did contribute a bit. I'm proud to say. I was flipping through, just looking for things. It's like, oh, is this in here and is this in there? And so far, it was like everything's in here. This is insane. And I'm kind of a fan of Van Cleve's stuff, so I'm like, Van Cleve. There's no Van Cleve. I'm like,
really?
Okay, is it under C for Cleve? Is Van like a middle name? I don't know. It's not there.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's actually an interesting question. Maybe Van is the first name, but
so
it's not.
There's no Van Cleve. So I actually brought this up when I talked to him, and he was on his computer, so he pulled up like an earlier draft where he had an entry of Van Cleve, but it was one of the things that got chopped as he was editing.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I feel like I don't know if you listened to our interview, but
not yet.
I was hoping he would have some inside dirt on the actor who played JoJo in on Thursday We Leave for Home, Danny Kulik, but he was like, no, I think Danny disappeared, and I'm like, oh no, my friend, he's a heart surgeon in Van Nuys. I found him. I was not able to get him on the phone, but I found him.
I mean, you may need to have a cardiac incident to
exactly.
get him in a room, but.
Yeah, well, I'm going to California over Christmas, so maybe that'll be an opportunity for me to have a little accident.
Because that's how you should spend your Christmas holiday.
Well, the truth is out there, Craig.
Tracking down JoJo. Oh my god.
Cool. Well, I unfortunately gotta go. It's funny because we're talking about this episode so much, but it's a lot of wet, slick sidewalks out there, and my name is Fred, but I gotta go walk my dog. So,
all right.
I'm hoping I don't bump into any smarmy peddlers while I'm out there.
Peddlers. Yeah. All right. Well, hey man, thanks a lot for hanging out. I appreciate it.
Not at all. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care.
Cool.
Yeah,
bye. We can stay on the line. Yeah. I just wanted to say bye to the podcasters.
Yeah, of course. Yes. I understand.
Cool. Yeah, cool. That was fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want me to just send you over the clip or?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, that'd be great.
Okay. Sweet.
Awesome, man.
All right. Well, let me go walk this dog, and I'll come back and bounce this file, and I'll get. Oh well, did you send me your email? What is it? Craig.
Yeah, you can just zonepod@gmail.com.
Okay. Cool.
That's my business email for all things podcast related.
Very professional.
Yeah, it's all about that. Hey, man, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, back at you.
All right, man. Take care.
Have a happy holiday season.
All right. See you, man.
See ya.
Yeah? Damn, I love that guy. So we've now covered 11 season 1 episodes in this second series here on the podcast, which means one more and we're 2/3 of the way through season 1. It also means that just as we did when we finished off the first dozen, we'll be taking a bit of a sabbatical, a hiatus, a fucking vacation. Last time we took several months off, which, well, I'm not planning to do this time, but it'll probably be at least a couple of months, maybe 3-ish months. I'm not setting anything in stone at this point. So I guess the real question now is, which season 1 classic, or not so classic as the case may be, will close out this run of episodes? I'll give you a tiny little hint.
It's wonderful. Just wonderful. I feel like togetherness.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Happy New Year to each and every one of you. And as always, play nice.
Between light and shadow.